Hello and welcome to Too Many Movies, the podcast I started where I can talk about DVDs, Blu-rays, and even the occasional VHS tape. I'm your host, Citizen HAL, and with me today is a very special guest. William, introduce yourself.
You just did. I'm William. If you've seen other videos that have both of us in them, you know who I am. Editor for Chaffrell's Productions. I have my own channel that I'm supposed to make stuff for, but haven't in like 2 years because burnout.
Yeah, burnout.
Unfortunately, we're not talking about burnout today.
No, we're talking about...
Well, actually,
what?
Technically, we'll get there.
I guess technically. Yeah, that's right. The first movie I wanted to talk about today, because, you saw it. The reason I wanted to talk... So we're talking about Elvis, first off. The first... I wanted to talk about Elvis because you were the one who got me interested in Elvis. So obviously I knew about it before you told me about it. I knew, Baz Luhrmann's directing an Elvis movie. But then that one day you were just like, hey, did you hear that Elvis is really bad? I'm like, what?
Okay, for reference,
yeah.
I was talking about the initial reactions coming out of, Cannes, which were very mixed. It was like, half of the people thought it was the greatest thing ever, half of them thought it was complete trash, which, usually is a good sign.
Exactly, yeah. So, we were just you were going through, all these different reactions, and that got me excited. I'm like, sweet, I love garbage. So what?
And then we both saw it.
I saw it a couple of weeks after you. So what were your thoughts on it? What were your initial thoughts when you first watched it?
My initial, the be all end all is that it's a pretty standard biopic with some wacky moments here and there. Really, I feel like your mileage is gonna vary based on whether or not you actually like Elvis as a person.
Yeah. That's that's definitely the sense I got. I will say at first, the first half of it, I was like, it was bonkers. I was like, oh, this is really funny. Some of it was genuinely entertaining, but some of it was so wacky, and I kind of adored it for that. But then I think you said, or somebody had said, towards the second half it started to lose mileage, and it just became a standard biopic. And I was like, by that point I'm like, yeah, it's pretty much just a standard biopic at this point.
To be fair, by that point in the actual history, because it's a real person, mm-hmm. There wasn't much wacky to have anyway. That is the more sad part of it, because that's when his life is kind of falling apart. He's slaving away at a hotel he doesn't even want to be at. His wife left him. She took the kids. He's getting fat. Yeah. He's going to die soon.
Yeah. Which they did not show him die on the toilet, but
I was so disappointed there were no bacon sandwiches.
There were no fried peanut butter and banana sandwiches or whatever
it was.
Yeah, it was something like that. It was some weird concoction in a sandwich. But yeah, and I will say, to drum up some positives on this movie, first off, Austin Butler does an awesome job as Elvis. Probably one of my favorite performances of the year. Just, it was amazing. It was really cool seeing this, because you always hear about how what kind of a weird, mysterious person Elvis is, and I really feel like he kind of nailed that in this.
Yeah, he basically does a perfect job.
Yeah, which is really funny because the rest of the acting is either serviceable or Tom Hanks. And here's the thing. I will say, I guess I was trying to go into more positives, but we're going to backtrack to the negatives. Tom Hanks.
Let's just go to Tom Hanks immediately, because I think that's the big sticking point for a lot of people here.
Yeah, what the big positive for this movie is obviously Austin Butler. The big negative, meanwhile, is Tom Hanks being...
Which surprised everyone, because you have Tom Hanks, established actor everyone loves, and Austin Butler, who I'm sure he's done some stuff here and there.
He was in Sharpay's Fabulous Adventure.
Oh, hell yeah. I think for most people, this is their first introduction to him. He's basically an unknown.
Right.
And he's the best part of the movie because he fucking nails the role.
He's really good.
And then you have Tom Hanks doing, what the hell is that accent?
Yeah. Here's the thing.
What the hell is that accent?
I wasn't exactly that put off by Hanks. I was expecting like a really awful performance, and it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't great. I'd say compared to his other performances, it's definitely one of his weakest. But I was still like, I was kind of entertained by how weird it was.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I don't think it was a bad performance. It's just that I don't understand the performance.
Yeah, it's such a weird performance. I mean, apparently this was a weird guy, but at the same time,
Snowman strikes again.
Snowman strikes again. Exactly.
I didn't even know who Tom Parker was before this.
Yeah, no, I had no idea. Like,
that was a thing.
Yeah, before this movie, I was not even a huge Elvis fan. I can't say. I mean, I knew who Elvis was. I know that he died very young, and I know that he was like a huge star back in the day. And I definitely heard his music. I just can't say I was as well versed in his story and like in his rise to fame and all that sort of stuff. So a lot of this was new to me. And yeah, I had never heard of Tom Parker. I never knew all this stuff that had happened. Whether or not it's all true is I don't exactly know. Like, I wouldn't know how historically accurate this movie is.
Yeah, because that is the thing to point out, that with biopics and stuff, you're still making a movie, so you do have to embellish certain things to get a free act structure out of it.
Yeah, and that kind of bugs me about biopics, especially, and I think out of all the ones I've seen so far when it comes to musical biopics, maybe it's only two at this point because it's this and Bohemian Rhapsody. This is obviously much better.
I haven't seen Bohemian Rhapsody yet, but I'm assuming there's like going to be like a comparison to be made with Austin Butler in this and Rami Malek in that, because like the only real big positive here about that one is Rami Malek as Freddie Mercury.
Yeah, and Rami Malek was great in that movie, but he's no Austin Butler as Elvis. Like, he's good, but Austin Butler as Elvis is even better. And I mean, the only thing I really remember about Bohemian Rhapsody is every time they played a Queen song, I was like, hey, I like Queen songs. I wish I was listening to the music instead of watching this.
The only thing I remember about Bohemian Rhapsody was editing the video for James like 4 years ago.
Oh, that's right. He did do a video on it. Yeah. Oh, yeah, and that's the other thing. Speaking of editing, that also won Best Editing when it didn't have great editing, so...
Can you imagine if this wins Best Editing?
That would mean a YouTube pooper won Best Editing. And you know what? I'm all for that. Yeah.
This should make a new category for funniest editing.
They should, yeah, because this editing was just... I mean, that adds to, like, the wacky nature of the movie. Like, it's just... like I said, like, when the movie started, I was like, oh, man, I am in for one hell of a ride, and I can't wait. And it was so... It definitely made things a lot more confusing. I was just like, wait, where are we? What's happening? It was just... I mean, it made the experience all the more entertaining. I can't really say whether or not it made the movie better, but it definitely made the experience more entertaining.
It just makes the movie funnier in retrospect, and you remember that all this was just being told on the deathbed of a drunk carny.
Exactly. Yeah, that was so weird. I feel like the movie... So it's obviously narrated by Colonel Tom Parker.
But it's not from his perspective either.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it is, because I feel like I understand that he's a manipulative asshole, but I don't know if the movie necessarily calls him out on that, you know? It keeps... Because it's him narrating, and he's like, there's moments where he's just like, oh, these hippies were brainwashing him, and it's just like, okay, but you're brainwashing him. Am I as an audience member supposed to know that, or like... does the movie not even realize that?
Well, at the very end of the movie, there are like the text stills at the very end that basically like, yeah, so he was found guilty for being a fucking jackass and financially exploiting him.
Right.
So like the movie says, yeah, no, he's the villain.
Right. Yeah, I think maybe it's just because the movie wasn't like explicit on that, and maybe that's a good thing. Maybe because as an audience member, you kind of need to know this for yourself. Like, oh, he's being a jackass. Like, you don't need the movie to tell you that. It was just communicated weirdly. Same thing as. Go ahead.
There's a shot like when he's like first like, it's not when he's first meeting Elvis, but like when he's like at a carnival with him at one point, and you probably notice there's like a quick thing where like it fades in behind him where it shows like a sign of the geek.
Yeah.
Which, for those who don't know, if you see Nightmare Alley, you know what a geek is. It was like an old carnival attraction where basically like get a dude and make him look like a caveman and just treat him horribly and act like he's like some missing link. And basically just like exploit him for money. And they're basically saying that Elvis is Tom Parker's geek.
Which, yeah, like that's the sense I got. And here's the thing, I don't entirely hate the movie. Like, I gave it like a 5 out of 10 on Letterboxd, I think, but I feel like I still enjoyed it overall. Like, it was fascinating watching it through, and I think what it was is that I'm more fascinated by Elvis the person than I was this movie's portrayal. I was fascinated because I'm more interested in finding out about Elvis's story from like a documentary perspective. Like if I watched an Elvis documentary, I feel like I'd be just as entertained. And I feel like that would then convey the story how it actually happened and not in like a 3-act structure like this movie did.
Yeah. I mean, I guess in that part it's doing its job to get people more interested in Elvis again, because I feel like the last big thing where Elvis was like a big deal was like, I vaguely remember like the late 90s and early 2000s, there was like a random amount of like Elvis nostalgia going around. Like I remember like being in grocery stores and seeing like Elvis themed ice cream, hunka hunka burnin' fudge.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. Like I vaguely remember that when I was a kid.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up knowing who Elvis was. I can't say I was ever like a huge fan of Elvis. I think after this though, like I have been listening to some of his music since I watched the movie, and some of it's pretty good. Like I like listening to it. So
well, it stayed relevant for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's of course. I mean, the same thing happened kind of with Bohemian Rhapsody. Like I was already a fan of Queen before I saw Bohemian Rhapsody, but after that, I was like, hey, you know what? I should listen to more Queen because I like Queen. I don't like the movie, but at least it got me to think about, hey, I appreciate this band. Let me celebrate them in a way that I know I can celebrate them and I enjoy doing.
And I think that might be partially the point, because they are making that cartoon in a couple of years.
They're making a what?
Yeah, did you hear the news that I think there's like Sony's working on a cartoon for Netflix or something called Agent King, where Elvis is an international spy? This is real. Look it up. This is real. This is happening.
Well, now I know I'll have more knowledge of Elvis when I finally watch that Bubba Hotep movie, the movie where Bruce Campbell plays Elvis.
I still need to get to that. I tried watching a couple years ago, but I was kind of doing other things in the background.
Yeah.
I have a copy of it, so I'll get to it.
I should get to it. It's from the same director as Phantasm, so...
Yeah. Yeah, Don Coscarelli, starring Bruce Campbell, has Black JFK, so you know it's good.
It sounds incredible. I need to watch it. But...
There was something I wanted to say I don't remember.
I'll say this. I think you told me, and I made sure to pay attention when I was watching the movie myself, was the guy who played Little Richard.
That actually is what I was going to bring up.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was cool. He looked a lot like Little Richard. Like, it was incredible.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think my favorite song in the movie was actually Tutti Frutti, just because the guy who played Little Richard fucking killed it, and also I just like Tutti Frutti as a song more than most of Elvis' stuff.
Yeah.
From what I remember.
Right.
The big thing is, I'm not really an Elvis guy. I know stuff for, like, cultural osmosis, but, like, my sister is the big Elvis fan, if you can believe it. She's the one that wanted to see this movie in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'm just like, I know things of Elvis. I did never really look too far into his life. I saw the movie, like, yeah, this is fine. I liked when it gets wacky with the editing. Because, like, that whole beginning sequence and then some of the other things are kind of cool. Like, when he does the protest song, it's like all the Time magazine covers behind him and everything.
Yeah, like, stuff like that.
Stuff like that's cool.
Yeah, stuff like that was definitely cool. If anything, yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to watching more of Baz Luhrmann's filmography. Because the only one I've definitely seen of his was Romeo plus Juliet, and I fucking hated that movie. It was so bad. But this was obviously a lot better. But he's such a wacky guy that I want to see all of his movies, even if they're terrible.
The only thing I ever get, like, a concise thing is that people generally like Moulin Rouge.
Yeah, that the funny thing is, I remember I was telling James about Elvis, and I was saying how the first half was really wacky, and then the second half was kind of boring. And then he was like, yeah, that's pretty much Moulin Rouge, too. Like, the first half is, like, really wacky stuff, and then the second half is pretty standard. And it's like, oh, I guess that's just how Baz Luhrmann works, then. I guess that's just how he makes movies.
Well, this one also has the excuse that it is a true story.
Right, yeah, that's true, too.
I will say, one thing that I was going to ask about if you had seen more is, like, the Baz Luhrmann style, why it would work in Moulin Rouge versus the others. And I think the answer to that is that Moulin Rouge is an original story, so, like, you can craft everything around there to fit that style, whereas for something like Great Gatsby or Romeo and Juliet, those are pre-existing stories that you have to now put into that style.
Right, and they don't often work, which, again, Romeo plus Juliet, incomprehensible. I am shocked that's a major movie, but they made it. Only in 1996 could you make a movie like that.
I don't know about Gatsby. I've heard mixed things about that.
Yeah.
This one, I guess, also it works more because, like, you look at, like, Elvis's suits and, like, the time period. Like, yeah, I feel like that is a better fit.
Exactly. Yeah. Again, I didn't have a terrible time watching it. I can't say I'll be rushing back to watch it again. And to tie it in with this podcast theme, whenever I talk about, like, a modern movie or a recent release, or just a movie in general that I don't own, I like reflect upon it. You know, would I own this on Blu-ray and add it to my movie collection? Well, would you, William?
My answer is my sister's going to, so I don't have to.
Well, there you go.
I know for a fact if this gets a steelbook, she's pre-ordering it day one.
Yeah, that should be a kick-ass steelbook cover.
Oh, yeah, that would be really cool because all the style we could do with that. I mean, just look at the poster in of itself.
Yeah, exactly. But as for...
They should put Tom Hanks on the cover of the steelbook.
It should just be Tom Hanks.
It should be Tom. There we go.
It should be Tom Hanks T-posing.
The snowman strikes again.
The snowman strikes again. But as for me, I again, it ties into my distaste is too harsh of a word. I'm not a fan of biopics, so I was not, like, blown away by this movie, so I can't really say I would ever buy it on Blu-ray because I just don't have the passion to, like, seek it out. I would rather buy, like, Elvis CDs and add that to my music collection. Like,
yeah,
like I said, I'm listening to a lot more Elvis now than I ever have been. So, you know, that's the kind of art having to do with Elvis I'd rather seek out than this movie. So, yeah, not one that will add to my collection, unfortunately.
I'm just sad that mashup was not actually in the final cut of the film.
Oh, yeah, it was like...
that was the big news that came out of Cannes, that there was going to be a mashup of an Elvis song with Britney Spears' Toxic and Backstreet's Back.
And they only did... All I heard was Toxic, like, the instrumental version of Toxic, and that was it. It's like,
I don't even remember that, unless I just missed it.
It was like... I think it was at the... it was like one part, he was like walking through his tour bus. It was like during the 60s, and they start playing like the instrumental of Toxic with like some other Elvis song, and I was like, oh, that's what people freaked out over, but I guess not. I guess it got cut. So
I remember when he was walking through Beale Street and they had a Doja Cat song playing.
Yeah, it was some modern rapper, and I'm like, what am I watching, man?
Apparently he does that in Great Gatsby too, where he has modern music playing.
Yeah, I think it's like Jay-Z or something. I don't know. Baz.
I mean, at least for Elvis, I kind of understand it more.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't. I mean, again, I wasn't taking the movie seriously, so it's not like I was really losing interest or anything. I was just like, hell yeah, Doja Cat in Beale Street. Let's go.
Elvis needed to ride a skateboard.
Very
Elvis
true.
needed to drive a forklift.
Forklift
You know,
certified.
if Elvis was forklift certified, maybe he'd still be alive.
Very true. Very true. Did you have anything else you wanted to say about Elvis?
Peanut butter sandwiches.
Me too.
Movie's okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's just with biopics, it's like, do you care about this subject?
Right.
Yes or no? Would I recommend the biopic to you? Again, the answer is, what was your answer to the first question? I'm not going to recommend you watch a documentary on the band Anvil if you don't care about the band Anvil. Most of the people watching this probably don't even know what Anvil is. I only know one song about them because they did a song about Mafra. Oh well.
Yeah, oh well.
There's a documentary about them on Netflix at one point. Like, oh, maybe I'll watch that. I only know one song by them. I never watched it.
Yeah. I will say, I did watch the Edgar Wright documentary on Sparks, and that got me into their music. So it depends. It depends on if you're looking. At that point, I would rather watch a documentary on a band if I want to get into a band or a musician of some sort. So
yeah,
maybe someday I'll seek out an Elvis documentary, but I mean, I'm quite comfortable just listening to his music at the moment.
Is that is the John Carpenter Elvis a biopic or a documentary?
I think it's a biopic because Kurt Russell stars in it and he plays Elvis.
Yeah, you know, that's cool and all. Hey, you know what would be even cooler if there was another movie that John Carpenter made that had Kurt Russell in it.
Oh man, I know. If only that existed. Oh wait,
that exists like several times.
Yeah, it happened several times, but more specifically, the next movie we're talking about today, Big Trouble in Little China.
Why didn't you ask me to watch The Thing?
Well, here's the thing.
Literally, yes. Here's the thing.
Here's the thing. No, I mean, I started this podcast because I wanted to go through movies I had never seen before, or movies I was kind of iffy on, or just movies that I have in my collection. I own The Thing in my Blu-ray collection. I'm never getting rid of it because I fucking love that movie.
Yes.
But Big Trouble in Little China, I had never seen.
Full disclosure, both of us saw the Thing in theaters this month when it came out for that Fathom event.
Oh yeah, no, that was so worth it. Such a good movie. Seeing on the big screen. If that ever happens again, to anybody listening, highly recommend it. Go see The Thing in theaters, or just watch it at home. Either way, just go watch The Thing. Either way, just go watch The Thing. Phenomenal.
If you haven't seen John Carpenter's The Thing yet, go watch John Carpenter's The Thing.
Yes.
People call that one of the greatest, if not the greatest, horror film ever made for a reason. Go watch it.
Go watch it.
It has Keith David in it, so you know it's good.
Yeah, exactly. Well, anyway, that's enough about The Thing. Let's talk about the actual movie. Big Trouble in Little China. So I have this Blu-ray. In fact, speaking of, to go back to The Thing, when I finished watching The Thing in theaters, I went to my local DVD shop just because I wanted to peruse, and I found this Blu-ray of Big Trouble in Little China, and I'm like, hey, I am in a John Carpenter mood. Let me buy that. So that's how I came into possession with this. How did you get into possession of yours?
I was at Walmart one day and saw the Blu-ray for cheap. I'm like, oh, that's a movie I've heard of. I should probably watch that eventually. So I bought it, and it sat on the shelf for a couple of years until you messaged me asking, hey, William, do you have Big Trouble in Little China? Yeah.
And then the rest
So I watched it last night.
Yeah. So
I didn't even know it was a John Carpenter movie the first time I bought it. I didn't know that until later. Like, oh, this is Carpenter. Neat.
Yeah, I had definitely heard of this. I didn't know it was Carpenter at first, but then I did notice, it's like, oh yeah, John Carpenter, Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah, the first time I ever had any exposure to Trouble in Little China was that one time when Gandalf the Great and Gandalf the White and Monty Python and the Holy Grail's Black Knight and Benito Mussolini and the Blue Meanie and Cowboy Curtis and Zombie the Genie, Robocop the Terminator, Captain Kirk and Darth Vader, Lo-Pan, Superman, every single Power Ranger, Bill S. Preston and Theodore Logan, Spock the Rock, Doc Ock and Hulk Hogan, all came out of nowhere, lighting fast and kicked Chuck Norris in his cowboy ass. That was the first time I ever had any exposure to Big Trouble in Little China because Lo-Pan was there.
Ah, okay.
Didn't know who he was.
No.
Didn't know who half the people were. If you asked me back in 6th grade if I knew who Benito Mussolini was, I would say, what?
Yeah, exactly. You'd just be like, who are you? Get away from me.
Most random character in that song, by the way.
And that's saying something. Anyway, so, yeah, this was... I thought you had seen this before, but that's pretty interesting that you had never seen it. So this was both our...
I was lazy.
No, this was both our introduction to Big Trouble in Little China. What did you think of it?
I thought it was okay. I see why people like this. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is fine. I've seen other better action and kung fu movies. Mm-hmm. This is fine. I watched it with Amber. They didn't like it at all.
It's okay. They're more of a fan of Faust anyway.
No. If they ever hear you say that, they're going to kick your ass.
That's true. They will. No, but I definitely liked it more than you. Maybe it's because I mean, I didn't know what to expect with this. I went in expecting a goofy John Carpenter movie, and that's what I got. So I was not disappointed. It was exactly what I was hoping it would be.
I think the mileage varies on whether or not how much you like the joke of the movie, because should we just get right into that?
Yeah, explain that.
The movie basically feels like as if the main character is actually just the sidekick for the thing. It's from his perspective, but he is not the one in charge at all.
Right.
Because he just kind of... It's like a character from a different movie walks into this movie and has to just deal with it.
Yeah. The funny thing about that is I did not know that's what the movie was going for. I just thought Kurt Russell was just this bumbling idiot. And then... Well, no... I knew that he was like supposed to be this like bumbling goofball throughout the whole movie, and I like that about this movie. I like that he's just this bumbling goofball. I didn't know that like the point of it was that meant that he was like kind of the side character, and that it was like a subversion of tropes where like the white guy is the main character and then the Asian guy is the sidekick, where this movie like switches that around, where the Asian guy is the main character and the white guy is the goofy sidekick. With that said...
Which probably would be how it happens in real life anyway.
Yeah, but with that said, I still felt like Kurt Russell was the main character. So
well, he is. It's just he's not. He's the one with the least agency.
He's the one with the least agency, which I feel like I've still seen that in main characters in movies. You know, just because they don't have a lot of agency in the story doesn't mean they're not the main characters. So right. I feel like John Carpenter kind of mistakes that. Like he equates agency to like whether or not they're like the driving force of the movie, or they're the main characters of the movie, and it's like, okay.
Well, he also loses his driving force. That's his whole thing. He's trying to get his driving force back.
Track back. Which, I mean, granted, whether this movie... So I don't think the movie succeeds in trying to be an actual subversion, because it just seems like a cheesy 80s action movie. I mean, with that said, I'm still entertained. Whether or not it succeeds in what it's trying to be, I'm still entertained, you know. Just, like I said, Kurt Russell is just this giant goofball in the movie, and it's hilarious. Like
a very different character from what he's done in other movies.
Yeah, very different from The Thing, let me tell you.
I haven't seen Escape from New York yet, but I'm assuming very different from Snake Plissken.
Oh, extremely different from Snake Plissken. Like Snake is unapologetically you know, it's funny. I don't think he has much agency in that movie, but yet he's unequivocally the main character. I mean,
well, he's the one who's actively sent out.
He's the one who's actively sent out. Yeah, but a lot of the times,
whereas here he just stumbles into it.
Yeah, he just stumbles. Yeah, that's true. That's true. But yeah, no, and I like that about this movie, that he's just, and I like that it's not like he's not like incompetent. He just doesn't know what the hell is going on half the time, and I feel like that's much more interesting. Like, that's hilarious. Just, he doesn't know what's going on, and you as the audience don't know what's going on, and I kind of like it like that, where it's just like, oh, I don't know what's going on, but whatever. Whatever's happening is funny.
I will say, like, he's competent enough for most of it, but there are some bumbling moments. Like, the one that sticks out to me, and this might be my favorite moment in the movie, was right before the final big battle. He has his gun, he shoots up in the air like he's gonna, like, getting ready for it. Yeah. He shoots the arch, and rocks fall down and knock him the fuck out.
I know, it's so funny how he gets knocked out, and everybody just starts the kung fu battle without him. It's so funny. It's one of my favorite parts. How he's just like...
and this, I just remember, like, in the second thing, like, right at the beginning, towards the beginning, when all the guys are first coming out, where there's two clans, you know, like, they're getting ready, and you think there's gonna be a big kung fu battle, and then just everyone just pulls out a gun.
Yeah. Oh, God. See, this movie is funny. Like, there's just so many wacky moments that that just tickle my fancy. Like, that's the kind of stuff I love seeing in movies. I think it could have gone crazier, though. Like, if I had, like, a big thing I didn't like about this movie, I feel like it does feel a little restrained, just a little restrained, like, throughout the whole thing. Like, it could have been wackier.
Well, I think they also do that just, like, so you can comprehend it better and understand what's going on.
Yeah.
Because part of it does feel like... It feels like he walked into a different movie, basically, so it also kind of feels like we did, because he doesn't really know what's going on either, so we don't, so there has to be restrained enough so we can still follow along. And to, like, go in on that, it's like, all these characters already seem to know each other and what's happening, like, oh, those are those guys from that one clan, these are these guys, hi, I'm Gracie Law, this is my literal introduction.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Where everyone knows exactly what's happening except the main character.
Yeah.
He just wants his money.
He just wants his money.
I can buy a new truck. Just give him my fucking money.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the thing to point out, like, he's not an action hero at all. He's just a trucker.
Exactly, yeah.
He's like, yeah, I'll go help you, take you to pick your girlfriend up at the airport. What the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, obviously, like you said, Amber was not a fan of this. I can see why. It's maybe a little too wacky.
Well, I think they mostly just thought it was boring, because it also took a while to really get going.
It does. And if you're not just 100% into it, then you're just not going to get into it. So, it's not as... I would make the argument something like The Thing is a little more accessible to people when it comes to, like, John Carpenter kind of movies. Like, even Halloween, I would say, is more accessible. This is...
Well, it's the matter of also, like, not everyone likes horror.
Right.
So, like, I can understand, like, to go off a different channel with Red Letter Media when they did their ranking. Rich is not a horror guy, so, like, he's gonna jive more with, like, the wackier or more action-oriented stuff. Like, this was his number one, and Jay's number one was The Thing.
Right, okay. I kind of fall into both camps. I like horror, but I also like the wacky adventure action genre as well. So I feel like... So, obviously, I'm more of a fan of The Thing, just because I appreciate it more. This, I just had, like, a good time. It was like... It was like a good wheel night kind of movie where it's just like, it's wacky, it's stupid, but I'm having fun with it.
I think you need to explain what we just said there.
Okay, so wheel night is...
Yeah.
Yeah, you go ahead.
You just want me, since I'm technically the one that runs it,
yes.
Every Saturday night, basically, because we hate ourselves... we have a wheel filled up with a bunch of garbage we find on Tubi and other streaming services, and it's basically just a bad movie night. We spin a wheel, and whatever we land on, we have to watch unless we decide we don't want to watch it.
Yes, basically that. I feel like Big Trouble in Little China would have been a good wheel night movie, but I mean, maybe it's best that we watched it for this podcast instead.
Because it's also like the expectations are different.
Yeah, the expectations are different, but I still had fun with it. I would definitely watch it again.
I might like it more on a rewatch, knowing what it actually is now.
Yeah,
we didn't really spend too much time going to other parts of the movie, like what's actually going on. I like the parts where they're going underneath the base, and it suddenly becomes a different John Carpenter movie when there's like the fish head in the wall, the Sasquatch that kidnaps Gracie Law.
Yeah,
like the creature design's really cool.
Oh, the creature designs are amazing.
The fucking Beholder from D&D shows up.
Yeah, James Hong is in this as David Lo-Pan.
Oh yeah, that's like I think that's the big thing that we should probably talk about. James Hong.
Yeah.
Can I just say, so there's this big immortal little 7-foot tall dude who has like lightning powers, who's like kidnapped this girlfriend so he can be immortal or something. It's like, okay, so what's this guy's name? David. Was that supposed to be the joke?
Maybe, cause yeah, David.
What's your name? David.
David.
Like, okay, it's Lo-Pan, but his name is David.
Yeah.
Lo-Pan. David?
I mean, I was excited to see it
saying.
because James Hong. I love James Hong.
Like, prolific actor, has like 1 million credits. He never had like a big break. This is probably his biggest role. But like, he's been in a lot of stuff that like you hear that voice like, oh, I know that guy.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like this year because he was in both Turning Red and Everything Everywhere. So I feel like those are kind of his bigger roles, which is good. I mean, yeah, the dude is hilarious, and he's been in like you said, he's been in a bunch of stuff. He was in Blade Runner, he was in Airplane, he was in fucking Chinatown. Dude, the dude's just been in a lot of things, and he was in the Kung Fu Panda trilogy. Yeah,
Poe's dad.
But yeah, he was great in this movie. I was so excited to see this movie because he's in it, and then he delivered. It was really fun.
I will just say, though, I don't think Star Wars would have as big of a cultural impact if the cool guy in the robot mask with the red lightsaber and deep voice was just named Keith.
Well, no, you're right.
Hi, I'm Steve from accounting.
Yeah, names do matter, but you know what? I was fine with it. I thought it was fun.
That's why the back of the box just says Lo-Pan.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, I'm just looking at it. Beneath San Francisco's Chinatown, where Lo-Pan, a 2,000-year-old magician.
Behold, the Dark Lord, David.
Oh, God, this movie's so funny. So, yeah.
What was that part where, like, the one dude, after they beat Lo-Pan, the one dude just, like, has, like, a meltdown and just blows up?
The only reason I know of that scene is because I remember it being in an Emp Lemon YouTube poop years ago, and I was like, what is that from? And then I watched it, and I was like, oh, it's from this movie.
What was he trying to do there? It's like, well, my master's gone.
I guess that John Carpenter just really wanted to show off that effect, and yeah, it looks really good. The puppetry is really good, how he just inflates.
Yeah, like the effects, like, okay, the optical effects, they're good for their time in the 80s.
Yeah.
Like, the lighting, it's not amazing, but, like, it's good enough for the time.
It does look pretty good.
The practical stuff does great.
Yeah, no.
The practical stuff's great.
Oh, God, yeah. No, the practical effects in this movie are fantastic. I loved the eye creature that just floats around.
Yeah, I said the Beholder from D&D, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And then, yeah, like we said, the Sasquatch character, it's like, these creatures come out of nowhere, which in and of itself is really funny, but they also are really good effects.
Yeah, because John Carpenter and like his team, they know how to do that.
Exactly. Yeah, they know how to do that kind of stuff. So, yeah. Was there anything else you wanted to say about Big Trouble in Little China?
I just want to point out that like how like when he's on the truck and he's like talking to like the communicator, like what is he doing? Is he just like a radio host? Is he a podcaster?
I think.
Is this the first podcast?
Yeah, I guess it's the first podcast. I thought he was just like venting to whoever was on the other line, but I don't know. You know what? I don't know. I guess it's just a quirky way of. It's just his quirk.
Like to introduce the character in the beginning and end.
Yeah, exactly. To kind
well, that's how you know he's a bumbling fool, because you have to have zero respect for yourself to be on a podcast.
Oh.
Like, you could never catch me on a podcast. I would never be caught dead on one of those things.
Yeah, forget about it.
Never.
Never. So this is the part of the show where I make my decision. Is this a movie I keep, or is it a movie I get rid of? And I mean, you have your own copy. Are you going to keep it, or are you going to get rid of it?
I'll probably keep it. I mean, like, it's not like I paid an exorbitant amount for this thing. I probably paid like $10 for this like 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I didn't not like it, and like I didn't look at any of the bonus features or anything. So I'll probably at least check those out at some point.
Yeah.
So it's like I might as well keep it around, especially if I just want to have like a full John Carpenter collection one day. Because like I might try to do that at some point.
Right. Yep, I'm with you. This is a definite keep. The moment that Kurt Russell shot his gun into the air and debris fell on his head and he was knocked out, I was like, all right, definite keep. Like, this is definitely a movie. I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with it. I feel like I'm going to enjoy it on rewatch, so it's definitely one I'm going to be returning to many times. So it's a definite keep from me. So we did it. We kept a Blu-ray.
We did it. I can't wait until you make me rewatch Tammy and the T-Rex. It's true. It might happen. Okay. Hey, if you are listening to this and don't know what Tammy and the T-Rex is, go watch Tammy and the T-Rex right now. Just go do it.
Yeah, go do it.
Don't look up anything. Just watch Tammy and the T-Rex. Greatest movie ever made.
I am behind this. Yes, 100%. Go watch Tammy and the T-Rex.
Same director as one of the most important films that was inducted into the film registry last year, Mac and Me.
Nice.
I'm not making this up. Yes, I am. I'm not making this up at all. This is completely true. It's not.
Mac and Me, better than E.T. Okay, I'd say that about does it. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for possibly imagining us talking about these movies. I don't know how you came across us. Whatever, it doesn't matter. William, do you have anything you want to plug?
I should probably plug my phone charger in for the night so I can charge my phone tomorrow.